House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
Weren't able to get to it last week.
Right. So we're covering episode
first
1
two
and 2,
episodes, yeah.
Right. Which actually works out pretty well.
Right.
Well, I'm glad we got to talk because I mean, if we had talked about it last week, I don't know if I would have much to say.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's really just set up last week, right? And so this past episode really did a lot to start moving the story forward.
Agreed.
And
Robbie says it's a roguelike.
It is a roguelike. That's
okay.
really what I
Dope.
thought. Which, man,
Dope.
Yeah.
Good.
Need that.
But so House of the Dragon, the return of Game of Thrones.
Right. We haven't seen this in a couple years now, you know.
And hopefully it will,
including the theme.
Yeah, including the theme. That's kind of
that was a big surprise. That was a big surprise for a lot of the reviewers as well.
For episode 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the review copy of episode 2 didn't have that intro.
Oh.
And so it only happened when you actually watch the actual release episode. Like,
nice.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And they did that right.
I think that I was expecting them because let's go ahead and say this. The first episode has no intro.
Right.
No.
It
just
goes
straight into it.
Right. You have a dragon flying over, what are we, King's Landing at the beginning? No, Harrenhal.
Harrenhal.
Yeah,
exactly,
flying over Harrenhal.
And I mean, they immediately, they bust right into it. They're like, guess what? You get dragons off the bat, guys, and shit's going down.
You don't have to wait for
That's what
dragons.
Game of Thrones is about
fine.
is dragons.
It's about dragons.
It's about dragons.
It's actually about dragons.
You know?
I mean, dragons are in the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the second one, just to go ahead and skip forward, because I mean, this doesn't matter.
We can, we're just having
the
a
second
discussion.
one,
We don't have to
they
go
are
point to
showing Old Valeria.
Yes.
And so the way that they're representing it, because of course in the first series, you know, the way that the beginning with the clockwork structures and all this stuff were based on all of the different houses, all the different kingdoms, right?
All the different kingdoms,
right?
exactly.
So we're talking about
all across Westeros.
Right. You know,
but this is all just the family tree of the Targaryens.
Just the Targaryens in Old Valyria and where their spots would have been in this kingdom and that kind of thing.
And as we're going through that intro, there is a just torrent of blood flowing from icon to icon, and if that person dies, their icon gets submerged in blood. You know, and so it kind of tells a story. Just like if you know what you're looking at, and if you know who each icon is represented by, like you can discern a lot.
Right.
There's a lot.
It's very smartly done.
Yes.
Like it's they put a lot into this one. I'm glad they brought back the same style, and I'm also kind of fine that they didn't make a new theme.
I mean, because that theme's a banger.
Why would you like? Well, it's the sound of Game of Thrones.
Right. But you also, by doing that, you invite direct comparison. So it's like they challenge us to forget everything that we felt about the end of Game of Thrones, and just give it another shot. Right? Say, okay, well, we know how that went.
That's right.
We know. We're aware of it.
Don't you remember the good times, guys?
But we're not running away from it.
That's it.
You know? Like, we're not going to run from it.
I agree with you on
Here's
that.
the deal.
Yeah. They are forefront facing it.
Right. Because I will say, going into this discussion, the more I watch House of the Dragon, the more interested I am in House of the Dragon.
I agree with
I
that.
was very skeptical at first when I first started watching it. And I think most people are going to approach it with skepticism if they even allow themselves to watch it at all.
Right.
You know? But... And they understand that. The showrunners know that they have to overcome that. Yeah. But as I'm watching episode 1, I'm just like, okay, and I'm, just being snarky, just trying to make comparisons. Then by episode 2, I'm like, fuck, I'm kind of invested.
Right.
You know, like this is actually interesting.
I wouldn't say that the show has really hooked me personally yet, but after watching the second episode, I feel like they are setting up some potentially interesting things.
They really are.
So,
totally.
like, because by the first episode, obviously, it's mostly set up. It's just introducing you to this part of the world.
There's a lot that happens.
There's there's a lot of names flying around that if you're not familiar with the lore in the books, I would assume that a lot of them just went over my head.
Right.
You know, but then by the second episode, they do tend to kind of narrow the focus a little bit more towards specifically what's going on specifically with the king and what's her name,
Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
So it's King Viserys the First, and Rhaenyra is his daughter.
Yeah. And he announces her as his heir by the end of the last episode, and this one is like kind of her figuring out to some degree what that means for her.
Well, I guess really for the sake of just having the conversation, we should start at the start, right?
We should start at the start. I
It's
guess there's nothing else that we need to get out of the way, right?
No,
there's
no.
not
The
really
spoilers
much
are abounds. Just know that it's going to be a thing. There's no other way to talk about
spoilers.
This
overall, I think it's okay. And I'm interested to see what
notes.
happens.
Yeah, I hate that I left my notes at home. I really, really would like those, if for no other reason than to have names for all these people, because a lot of these names are very similar.
They're very
across the board, very, very similar. Yeah. And then knowing like the family tree for the Valerians, for the Targaryens, like it's all that stuff's kind of important.
It is, yeah. Which I don't have that right here in front of me. I really just basically have the beat per beat for the episodes,
Okay.
But I have most of the names.
Well, then you need to guide this.
Okay, so we start out with King Rhaenyra.
Fucking right.
Dying, basically. But he decided that because in most situations, if a king dies, there's a war.
Right.
And he's getting ahead of that war because his entire lineage was based on peace.
Right.
He lived in one of the longest peacetime periods, and he was the major proponent for that peace.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, mostly because was it his father? I guess was Maegor.
Yes. His father was Maegor.
And Maegor was terrible.
Yes.
So Maegor was a fucking tyrant. Probably not as bad as Aerys, the Mad King. But not far off, because as they say, the gods flip a coin,
flip
right?
A coin whenever a Targaryen is born, flip a coin.
They flip a coin.
Like, ooh, this was gonna be shitty.
Maegor was a tails. That's all I'm saying. Okay, they shouldn't have picked it up. But anyway, so Rhaenyra called a great council. So that means every one of the important houses across all of the 6 kingdoms at this point, not
Dorne
7,
was not conquered.
right? Because Dorne's not conquered. They get together and they vote. Amazing for who the next heir to the throne would actually
the
be.
next Targaryen heir.
Right. The next Targaryen heir.
It's still gonna be a Targaryen because they do have dragons. So
but the thing
you know
is
that
like the remaining or the 2 choices are neither of them direct descendants of Jaehaerys. Right. Because all of Jaehaerys's kids are dead.
Right.
So he has to choose between cousins, basically.
Yes.
And those 2 cousins are King Viserys or Viserys the First. And Rhaenys, right?
Rhaenys.
So Rhaenys is part of House Valerian. So she's married to Corlys Valerian.
She's married to a black dude.
Right? Yeah. It's a whole country of them.
I know, right? With white hair, with like white dreadlocks.
Man, he does look
It's my future,
dude,
baby.
He looks so fucking
I'm heading there, baby. I can't wait.
I like Corlys a bunch.
I do too.
But so
I trust him more than I trust Otto Hightower.
We'll get to
that.
Man, fuck on Otto Hightower. All right. But anyway, so the Great Council ends up choosing Viserys as their heir, and that immediately I wouldn't say it stirs like a big
like a
confrontation.
rivalry.
No, it's not so much that. It's just this slight disdain for each other, especially when it comes to Rhaenys looking at Viserys, because she feels like she should have been.
She immediately got labeled with the title of the queen who never was. And people say that to her face all the time.
Right.
Dude, he does. He has one of the best wigs. It looks
absolutely
real. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it's really, really good. You know, and it's interesting with Rhaenys because, like, you know, while she does feel like she should sit the throne, she also is just like, you know, it's only because I was a woman, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
and
not
really
because
there's kind
she
of more
did
to
anything
it.
to earn it.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? She's like, well, you know, I should have this role because I'm a better leader.
Right.
You know, he is, you know, a fool and too compassionate, all this kind of shit. He's Ned Stark. And
he's to me he's directly in between Ned and Robert,
right?
But he's also not like a lush like Robert,
right?
You know,
But he's a creature of principle.
He is. He's a creature of principle, and he's a good guy.
He's a good dude, and we all know
he's
what
not
happens
a
to
very
good guys
good king
in Westeros.
None of them survive.
They don't make it. They don't make it, and so you know she is a little bit more cutthroat, but she's still supportive, and she still supported her family up until carry on.
Right, but the only other thing I'll mention about that scene at the beginning is that, like you said, they're in Harrenhal, and it's more book accurate because it's huge as shit. Because Harrenhal was kind of tight quartered in the original show, and that's not the way Harrenhal is.
Harrenhal is still under construction. Like there's still scaffolding and everything. Like it's still
they never
growing.
fix the shit
Right.
because what happens is they'll fix part of it, and it's so massive that it crumbles back in on itself. Right, and that keeps happening. So that's why even in modern Game of Thrones, Harrenhal is destroyed. But Balerion, the biggest dragon, which we end up seeing his skull later on.
Dread.
Right.
The Black Dread.
Yes.
Ooh, the largest dragon ever. He melted Harrenhal.
Yeah, right.
So
as dragons are wont to do sometimes.
You know,
Yeah.
as was done at the time.
They should have given him a biscuit, but they didn't.
He just wanted that treat.
Yeah, so so then past that, I guess the next thing that happens is we see Rhaenyra and Alicent Hightower. So we get a time difference of like 15 years.
Yeah.
Right.
She was pregnant
She's
with
supposed
Rhaenyra.
to.
She's
Yeah,
15 in the
they're-
present.
yeah,
well,
they're
right,
supposed to be
present day.
Yeah.
15. Yeah.
So it's about 15, 16 years
Yeah,
later because
roughly.
I don't know how far along and
It's
all
probably about
that
15
kind of shit.
years.
About 15 years
Yeah.
later. So Rhaenyra is the princess.
Very similar in style to Arya Stark. She's she wants combat. She wants to be a dragon rider. She does not want to bear children or do any of the womanly duties that are expected of a female Targaryen with a royal womb.
Right. And the very beginning of it is her landing with her dragon. What the hell's her dragon's name? It's Syrax.
Syrax.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Nice.
I know. That's all I ever think about. I'm just like, really? Syrax? I love it.
Does he have a net?
You know?
So him landing with Syrax, and I can't remember the name of her royal guardsman, the guy that's the leader.
That guy's awesome.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Bald with a real kick-ass mustache.
Fucking right.
But he, so he greets her, and she's like, "Oh, you're real happy to see me." And he's like, "Oh, every time this beast brings you back unscathed, it saves my neck from the." Oh yeah. So he just he follows her around and makes sure she's doing good. But that's when you're introduced to Alicent Hightower. So the Hightowers are also represented in further Game of Thrones, but at this moment, Otto Hightower, her father, is the Hand of the King. Right. Yes. So one of the major players of the Small Council.
And a bastard.
Oh, I hate him so much. I fucking hate him.
Well, that's the thing about his character. He's essentially our Littlefinger. It's hard to really read what his intentions are. I mean, he is. He's
a
super
short-sighted idiot.
Right,
dude.
right. And he kind of comes off like he's trying to be noble, but it's like
Dude,
for a fact
fake noble.
that
I
it's
feel
just-
well.
exactly.
I feel
You know
like
for a fact
he's.
that-
I feel like he's closer to like what's dude's fucking name? The Lannister, Daddy Lannister. Tywin. Yeah.
Because dragons stink.
well, I mean,
that's why.
He gives off that air.
Dude, smell of dragon.
But the thing is,
He's not a
everybody,
good Tywin Lannister.
Everybody
I wouldn't
gives off
give
that
him-
air.
He is pales in comparison to.
Right.
Because he
That's
has a
the thing.
little bit of a little finger going on. He's
a
got
little
a
bit of
Tywin
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
But none of them are. It's not a good version of it.
Right.
Because this guy seems like he's so
He's just-
scatterbrained and worried about all the
seems
pieces.
like he came from nothing and wants something. You know what I'm saying?
But he's
That's
a
why.
bootlicker. That's part of the problem, dude. Is he's
Well,
totally like, no, it's okay,
I think
kid.
he's
He's
we
a
can
playing
do
the
bootlicker
whatever."
that's also a
I
schemer.
think,
Yeah.
I think he's just playing the game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Dude.
I mean, look at what just happened. So,
The
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
Littlefinger.
bad Littlefinger though. He's
Yeah, of
not
course,
a good
because Littlefinger is the best Littlefinger.
Right.
But that's his whole role here is the guy that seems like, okay, well, he's gonna be the honorable Hand of the King, when in truth he's right there ready to stab King Viserys in the back.
And you can tell. You can tell the whole time.
He's ready.
Which will
Which almost
talk
makes
about
you
why-
want to root for Daemon in this regard.
That's that's why this series is going to be so good.
Good
It's
old
'cause
Matt
there's-
Smith.
Right.
Yeah.
Who is awesome, by the way.
He is really good in the role.
So right after we get to see Rhaenyra and Alicent Hightower show up, the first thing that they do is they go check on Rhaenyra's mother.
Yes.
Who is in the
with
last stages
baby.
of labor.
Very pregnant.
And she's very
she's
pregnant.
sick with baby.
And she's laying down in the fainting couch, and her name's Emma. Yeah, I thought it was Emma for the long time.
Emma.
Of course it is. Yeah, because everything's
is
AE.
And
everything,
totally.
Right? And she is explaining to Rhaenyra that at some point she'll have to deal with the same problems.
Right, and she's like, "This is our battlefield. This is what we do."
But I love it that Rhaenyra comes in and she's like, "Hey, do you need anything?" And she's like, "I have people waiting on me." And she's like, "No, you have a bunch of people waiting on the baby.
Right?
He does
need someone to care about you."
He does look like Vigo, doesn't he?
Oh, he does kind of look like Vigo.
He does
look a
little like
Daemon looks like Vigo.
Vigo
He
the
looks like
Carpathian.
The Scourge of Mondavia.
The sorrow of Moldavia commands you.
God, that's good.
In the castle of
command
pain,
me, Lord.
on a mountain of skulls, I sat on a throne of blood. What was will be, what is will be no more.
Look what you did. You
Now
see what you
is the season of evil.
You started
Evil? Find me a child
that
I might live again.
again.
That's the start to a metal song right
Isn't
there.
it? Yep. Find me a
Sample.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, thank you. I didn't even think about it that way.
Love it.
Yeah, so basically, Rhaenyra's worried about her mother because, of course, nobody's really paying attention to her.
Right.
They just care about the heir to the throne.
The heir to the throne,
right?
the baby who has no gender.
Right, they don't know yet.
Viserys is assuming
He's sure it's a
that
boy.
it's going to be a boy.
Oh, yeah.
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 What did she say? The child can't possess a cock how did she put it? It's something like that. Like she makes some kind of like you.
They're always making cock jokes.
You don't know that it's a boy, but
Right.
she basically says it like you can't attribute a cock that it doesn't have or something
Right.
like that. Like she says it in such a funny little way. Because but that's later on in the
But
bath scene.
Viserys also,
Yeah.
he loves her.
Dude, Viserys loves
he
her, dude.
really
loves
He's
her.
a good guy. Fuck, it sucks.
Doomed.
Oh, he's doomed.
Doomed. And so Viserys is having a tournament.
Yeah.
Pardon me, in honor of his unborn son to be.
First, though, we get to see Daemon.
Oh, well, Daemon shows up and sits his ass on the Iron Throne
before this tourney happens.
Right.
The first thing, the next
So
thing.
Daemon
we see,
Targaryen is the brother. No, he's the
he's
brother
Viserys'
of
brother.
Viserys.
Yeah.
So he believes that he
but
is.
he was sent off to the Vale.
Yeah.
And so he's been in the Vale. He had to take a wife in the
he
Vale,
does
and he is
not
not
like
okay
her.
with it. He's like, she is ugly. He's like, the sheeps look
Yeah,
better.
what
you know,
he
he's
said
like
is in the Vale,
in the
men
Vale,
fuck
men
sheeps,
fuck sheeps.
and I guarantee you that they're prettier than the women.
Right.
Like fuck, man.
Damn.
For real, heavy roasting. And so, but he comes back to visit, and Rhaenyra finds him on the Iron Throne.
Just sitting up there like he's cool,
like
which
Count
is
Dracula.
actually an allusion to what happens with Jaime Lannister,
Right.
Because that's exactly how Robert found Jaime,
Right.
is sitting on the Iron Throne after he killed King Aerys,
Right.
You know, and he basically is like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm keeping it warm for you."
Right.
It ain't nothing. You're good. But yeah, so then Daemon and Rhaenyra, what you find out is that they speak Old Valyrian to each
Right.
other.
Yes.
And it's like their special language because they are not because that's her uncle.
That's her uncle.
Right.
That's her
Yes.
uncle.
But they kind of more have a brother sister kind of thing going on.
Well,
Like he's more
but
like big
they're
brother.
still Targaryens, and I mean, you never really know what that could mean.
Oh yeah.
It gets real
yeah.
cousin fucky real quick, real brother sister fucky real quick.
It-
And even so Daemon gets off of the throne and presents her with a gift, gives her Valyrian steel, gives her a necklace of Valyrian steel.
And
that was that first moment where it was like,
rare
is
at this
he
point.
kind of making a move? Like,
it feels that way immediately.
Right, they give you that weird vibe in there, and it's just like, this is a little uncomfortable. But they do have a very strong bond.
They do.
between the two of them.
They do.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they love each other.
Yes.
In their
Yeah,
own
and they're
ways.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're very close. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is why I feel like it's like there is this big brother relationship, but they're also Targaryens.
Well, he also
So we just have to-
respects her enough to not be like,
Yes.
you need to be a lady, you need to do this, and that.
That's the other thing. He
He's
Right.
respects her for who she is,
for
and
who
he
she
loves
is.
it that she's a
Exactly.
strong lady and
Absolutely.
wants to ride dragons and wants to go do shit. And he's
Yeah.
like, shit, bring it on.
Hey,
Let's
for
do
real,
it.
this guy dope.
Let's ride.
Let's ride. Let's
Yeah.
ride.
Yeah. Man, he's a wonderful bastard. Is what he is.
But so they start doing the tourney.
That's when.
Yeah.
Well, I think. Okay, so the next thing I have on here is Viserys' wound.
Well, yes, because they tend to Viserys' wound on his back.
On his back.
He has a wound on his back from sitting the Iron Throne.
Right.
Which is what he says. What he says attributes it to.
But we
for
don't
all
know.
of us who we don't know, but I think
that's right.
I think they're pushing it. I think they're pushing for that. For a minute there, I was thinking that they were like alluding to the beginning of GraeScale, like where it might, and that could be where it goes.
Could still be because his hand's looking fucked up.
Exactly right. But he has a wound that's festering on his back that will not heal.
Because
so they end up
Iron
lancing
Throne,
it and like all that.
Oh yeah,
juice
the
pus
coming
out of it, and then they're like, we could cauterize the wound, which is something we talked about.
Does he have tetanus? Fuck yeah, he's got tetanus.
He's got super.
He's
tetanus.
gonna get lockjaw.
And then it's just like, well, I mean, how do you cauterize a wound on a Targaryen?
On a Targaryen, because they don't burn, right?
They don't burn.
I was thinking about this. How far does this not burning go?
Right, exactly. Because like what? Sorry, let's
get there. And
okay,
then talk about
okay.
Let's get there. I know. And then but it does make you wonder. Like, can they eat scalding hot soup? You know what I mean?
Right.
Are they good with just picking up a pan out of the oven?
They should
like,
be.
will they do that?
They should be. They should be fine with it. You know what I'm saying?
No burns at all.
Dude,
then why aren't they all chefs?
Nobody eats fresher cookies than
Targaryen.
Right?
Just pour the molten
They don't
batter
even
into
take
my
the
mouth.
pan out of the oven. They just take it directly out.
Can't burn myself. Does it work with hot sauce too? You know what I mean? Can they just not taste hot
That might
sauce?
be a different kind of burn.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
It should.
Right?
It should work.
I'm just
oh,
saying.
God, getting a Targaryen on a hot one.
Oh, dude.
Oh, what you going to
hand
do?
him,
Literally nothing.
Hand him a goddamn Reaper.
Unimpressed.
He's just like eating them like
snacking
fucking
on
chips.
Reapers.
Yeah.
they're like, I'm not supposed to match you, right? Yeah.
Anyways, back to the thing.
Yeah. But he's got this bad festering wound, and the idea is that the Iron Throne rejects the weak.
Right.
That's kind of just a old wives' tale. The one of the mythologies in the world. That if you aren't fit to sit the throne, then it will push you out.
Right.
You know, which is what was happening with Aerys.
Right.
Because Aerys was fucked up. Like that. Like because Aerys was at the
because they damn sure won't give up the throne.
Exactly. He was so crazy that he wouldn't even get out of his goddamn throne.
Right.
He was like, no, I'm sitting here all day, which meant that he had cuts
just
all
lesions
over
all over his body. Yeah.
Right. And it shows later that like when he sits Viserys sits on the throne, he cuts himself again. So
cuts himself on his finger.
They are definitely showing that he is being
and
rejected.
it bit him quick too.
It bit him
he
real quick.
Like,
oh, God. Ooh.
Yep.
Why don't somebody take a file to that shit?
Yeah, for
you know
real.
what I mean?
I mean,
you'd be filing for a long time. Because,
yeah, well, he's got a lot of folks working for him. Okay.
Yeah, that's also very true. They don't want to touch that throne either.
That's it.
But they did a great job of expanding the Iron Throne versus the way that it was, because when Robert Baratheon took over,
he pulled up all
anything that had anything to do with the Targaryens got rid of it, right? But even the original drawings for the Iron Throne, that thing is tall.
It's a tower.
It's a tower.
Well, it looks like a lifeguard seat. Almost, like way up, but just fucking swords the whole way.
Exactly.
Because I remember even looking at the original Iron Throne, and I was like, "That's not 1,000 swords."
Right. Yeah. Well, this one apparently has swords like from The Witcher, swords from like World of Warcraft.
Yeah. It has they did it. They totally did it.
That's fucking dope.
I know.
Yeah.
Hopefully that Conan sword's in there, because that's an iconic one.
There you go.
They could do. They got the Highlander sword. That'd be good. Anyway, so
we have our tourney and
the bath scene. Bath scene's the next one, and she's talking about how, because this is an important one, Aemma says straight up because there's a scene basically where Aemma,
the water is only tepid.
Right.
Only
He walks in and she's bathing herself, and she just looks like she's fucking wrecked. You know, you can tell she's been up for days, and she's having those initial things moving, and she's going like well, they let me run a warm bath, and he puts his hand in and he says, yeah, this is tepid. Yeah. She's like, yeah, that's all the maesters will allow. That's the warmest they will allow. Which he's like, don't they realize that us Targaryens,
we don't burn.
Yeah, we don't burn. And she's just going like, I'm trying, I'm fucking trying.
Yeah.
But then she has this heart to heart with him, and I think this matters a lot, because she straight up says that he she loves him, and she wishes that she could produce the heir that he needs, but she's tried too many times, and
they've lost too many babies as well.
Yeah, she's mourned all the dead kids that she can deal with.
Right.
That's the way she puts it.
Right.
Yeah, and he understands, he gets it, but at the same time, he's thinking about it. He's like, but I gotta have my heir. I still have to have this heir. And he's just worried about that.
Well, it's because it's something that's expected of him as
king. I mean, that is his job. That is his, like, if you don't, then you die. That's the end of your line. And if everyone knows that you don't have an heir, they're coming for that throne.
But he still cares about her enough to sympathize with her situation.
Right.
And he just wants her to be comfortable. And so he's trying to calm her down and that kind of thing, right? And so then the next scene is actually when we see Damon and his soon-to-be new wife at the whorehouse.
Yes. What's her name? Like Miss. It's very similar to Missandra.
It's
something. Whatever.
It's Missy.
Missy. Well, but she is kind of like a Melisandre-esque character.
Kind of. You think she's got some?
She might some blood magic. She may. Because she seems strong. She also seems like what was the name of Tyrion's girl?
Oh,
Shay.
Shay.
Yeah,
that's the vibes I was
very
well.
I love Shay so much, but god damn it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're banging in front of a bunch of folks, and then he's having some trouble, and then
because he's like,
to,
he's like, you're not blonde.
Yeah.
You're not a Targaryen.
Yeah.
That's what he wants. He wants because I mean, you get that whole situation. Did that happen before or after he gave Rhaenyra the?
It was after.
Okay.
Yeah, this is directly before the tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
And because I mean, I guess that's the whole thing. It kind of makes you feel like it's like, oh, dude.
Well, he's frustrated. There's a tournament tomorrow.
Rhaenyra.
He's having all this going on in his head. He wants to fuck his niece.
Yeah, right.
And it's like,
I want a piece of that. This is so boring. And she's like, I can wear a wig. I can dye my hair.
It's like that Joe Dirt
You want me
scene?
to pull somebody else in here? I can get somebody. I can get somebody really young. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
even a maiden.
down.
I got a couple maidens.
I got a couple maidens. What do you want? Yeah.
And he's like, I just want to be king.
I just can't wait to be king.
He puts that blanket around him and pouts in the window. He's like,
I want to be king.
I want to be king. I want to be Vigo.
Right.
Yeah. So then, after that, it shows the next day, which is like we were talking about this great tournament because it's supposed to be the name day of
their new heir, their son that is
son
to be
right.
Right.
And of course, up to this point, they keep being like, "Are we sure it's happening on the date?" And the Maester's all like, "Well, based on our things." And he goes, "Yeah, a Maester can't make any decision without there being qualifications, right?" But so this does actually happen to be the day that she goes into labor,
right?
And so
she goes into labor during the tournament.
So there is a juxtaposition the whole time between this violent act of hubris, which, by the way, did you notice the shape of the tiny grounds?
And the tournament
It looks like a big vagina. Like it's got that, and I was going like, all right,
I see what you're doing there.
I see
what you're doing there. Even though I was having a hard time figuring out what the rules of this thing were, because I mean, you had Damon over there in some sick ass armor. By the way,
he fucking cheated.
That
dude.
armor that he was wearing, though,
I don't know. I think
sick.
I think his armor looks really bad.
I mean, I thought it looked badass. Anyway,
bad,
but then
and I don't understand why
like,
he doesn't have a face protection.
Because he's that arrogant.
He's that arrogant. Yeah,
like,
dude,
literally,
don't give a fuck.
he is
That's
that
the whole
arrogant.
point.
The wings on his helmet are shaky.
Well, I agree
a
that
lot
the quality of the armor is not as good. I think
the design was dope.
A lot
of design is dope.
Dude, a lot of the stuff in this looks really fucking cheap. A lot of it. I
only think some of it does.
Yeah.
I only think there's a couple of things. And the armor shaking a little bit is one of them, and I feel like some of the weapons look a little wonky.
Yeah,
but I can suspend that because I understand how much it actually costs to make that
Exactly.
shit. That's just really expensive.
And
it's heavy.
And it's like the first few episodes.
Right.
We're going to move on from all this.
But
and they put a lot of their budget.
Go past the negativity.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah.
Right. But also, like, a lot of their budget, you can tell, went towards the CG for the dragons. That was one of the reasons why you didn't see dragons that frequently in the first iteration of Game of Thrones is because like that shit's it costs money. It's very, very expensive. But you open up with Dragonflight and it's like, okay, well y'all just blowing the bank.
And then to give
on CG
a little credit towards the design of his armor, that's pretty much the same as fuck, what's her name? What's Daenerys's brother's name?
Viserys.
No, the other one, the one that Robert Baratheon killed in the river. And
oh yeah,
right. Aerys's Kingsguard at the time.
Right.
His name is. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what the armor looked like. Like almost to the T. That's exact. Except the difference is that his armor was blood red and encrusted with jewels. So when they beat the shit out of him in the river, jewels scattered everywhere, and then the peasants started picking them up instead of fighting each other. Just saying.
Right.
I think that's a cool thing.
That's pretty dope. Yeah.
But yeah, so
but he cheated like a motherfucker.
He's also a cheap ass bastard.
Yeah, dude. Like,
how you gonna yoke him up like that,
yoke
man?
up the horse?
Oh,
you
come
know,
on,
like
man.
Jesus, bro.
Yeah.
And then snatch him off, and then put an axe in his head. Because that's the thing. Like some of these people were doing some jousting, and it was just fair, whatever. They're just jousting.
Yeah.
And some of them were just outright murdering one another. Like,
yeah.
And then that's when damn it, what's her name? Rhaenys. That's when Rhaenys and Corlys start kind of commenting to each other about how there's been peace for so long, very similar
these
to the other
people have
series.
never seen war.
Yeah,
you know
these
knights are sweet
they
summer
are.
children.
They're all they don't understand what real war is because, like I was saying, you know, King Jaehaerys had peace for so long, and then this is the reign directly after that with a king that's kind of on the soft side, right? So none of these guys have been in battle,
right?
Which also comes up later when
they all posture as if they're these big great warriors, but
they're all tourney knights.
Fought. They're all tourney knights,
but they're still willing to murder each other. That's the funny part.
That's why it's kind of weird to me.
Yeah. But I like it that they kind of downplay the violence. Like it's not like the way that I don't know, in the first one it seemed like when the Hound cut somebody in half, you know, cut his horse's head off, everybody was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
In this one, like the important people are looking at it going like
yeah,
I don't know,
right?
This seems a little nasty, especially on the potential heir's name day, like, because that's what she says. Should we really be celebrating this kind of thing with
this level of violence?
With this level of violence,
right?
Yeah. So I like it that they are paying attention to that, but then the whole time you're also seeing the struggle that Aemma's going through,
right?
You know, trying to push this kid out,
right? Which is crazy, right? Like compared to all the shit that's happening in the tournament itself, and
life
cutting
and death,
back
right there, life
on
and
both
death.
sides, right? You know, she's like she is battling, she's waging a war as well. You know,
but so throughout the tournament, basically everybody's getting knocked down except for two motherfuckers, with Daemon and then Kristen Cole. All right, so Kristen Cole is at this point being referred to as a Dornishman.
He's a Dornishman,
which he isn't exactly.
Right.
But you find that out later. But that's the way that they're calling him. I can't remember what the household they said that he had to be around. Oh yeah, deal with the kids.
Yeah.
Thank you for the lurk.
Yeah.
Thanks for the lurk.
And
it was God, what was his name? He kept coming back from the dead.
Yeah, it is. It's Dondarrion.
Dondarrion.
So he is actually a I guess like you'd call him like a retainer under the Dondarrion family.
Yeah, he was
like
a
that's kind of the way.
or something.
Right, exactly. Yeah, a lower level retainer. Yeah.
Yes.
But he still had seen real combat.
Right.
And he's
it was
a
after
badass,
they survived
dude.
a bad like a crazy fucking battle. Then he was knighted.
And so after we've seen all these other guys beat the shit out of each other and lose and back and forth and all this stuff and the little chit chat between everybody, it finally goes down to the last thing, which is between Daemon. Well, Daemon comes out and chooses a different guy. I can't think of what it's. Oh, it's the Hightower.
Yes.
It's the Hightower's oldest son. So it's actually Otto Hightower's oldest son, and I think the only reason he did that is because he fucking hates Otto.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So he was trying to make a point.
Because I mean, even in the small council, Otto was like calling him out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they're also calling out Otto for responding to Daemon, always trying to antagonize him.
He's like, come on, man, you know he likes to boil you.
Yeah.
You know, don't give him the
don't
what he
give him the
wants.
satisfaction, bro. And so he's like, all right, well, I'm about to fuck up your oldest kid. You know,
That's exactly it.
And Otto's up there just like,
Oh man, dude, I know because
Yeah.
I was like, well, I have to support this.
And he
I
can't
can't
do
say
anything about it. Yeah.
Can't say anything.
Yeah.
And
That was the one where he like tripped up the horse.
that's
the
the guy
one
that he
that-
cheated.
yeah,
And he
like-
fucked up his face because when he
Yeah.
landed on the ground, it scraped up all of his shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it didn't kill him, but
Yeah.
Still.
You get to live with that kid.
right.
Yeah.
So then after that, like everything, it like I said, it boils down to the two. So it ends up just being Damon and Kristen Cole. And of course, Damon is a cocky son of a bitch, so he's not worried about it. He really thinks he's solid on it.
And Kristen Cole's a G.
Right, he is. Ooh, I love him already so much. Ooh, especially his
dead.
comments. Dude.
He's so dead.
Ooh, he's so dead.
He's so dead. Right?
Ooh, don't get attached. So at this point is when the Maester shows up to tell Viserys that there's a problem.
Right.
Yeah,
The
there's
baby is
complications.
breached.
The baby's breached,
And
they can't really do anything about it. They've been trying to turn
I thought
it.
it was
You've
about to
heard
say
about
it's not turning.
That's
Yeah.
that's what
Right, that's what
breach
breach
just means
means.
that it's feet first.
Ah.
Right. Yeah.
So the baby's breached, but they have heard of a method where you can remove the baby and it might come
Bring
to life
the
with
baby
mother.
out.
And that's what he says is you know, sometimes a king has to make a decision
Right.
between either the life of the child or to lose them both.
Them both. It's like she's gonna die regardless.
And
Like,
and
that's
of
the
course
thing.
he's like, how could you ask me this?
Right.
How could you ask me to? And then he sits there for a second. He's like,
save the
you
baby.
can save the kid though,
Yeah. You know.
dude. That look in his eyes.
And even at that
you
point,
know?
he still doesn't know that it's a son. You
Right.
know.
Right.
This is just guessing. He's
Yep.
just hoping that this is
Right.
a male heir.
Mhm.
Because but at that point, if they're saying you're gonna lose your wife,
You're gonna lose your wife anyway.
do you want to
know?
try?
Emma's gonna die
to get
so,
the kid?
Right.
And then he's got to. Well, should I put her through this agony in her last moments? Is that worth it?
Right.
I guess it is for the realm.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it keeps going back and forth between the tourney and what's happening with her, because Kristen and Damon are wailing on each other.
They are.
Yeah,
back and
yeah.
forth,
They
wailing
have
on
gotten
each other.
off the
Taking
horses
hits.
at this
Right.
point.
And my boy,
Yeah.
Dude,
Kristen's over
when
there
he
with that
knocks him
flail.
off- Dude, well, when he knocks him off the horse initially,
Yeah.
he busts Damon with the lance, and Damon falls to the side and grinds
All
on
the way
yeah,
down
the
the
Smith
fucking
grind does a
rail.
5-0 grind on him.
and pops up pissed.
Yes.
He's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't knock me off my horse.
Yeah.
And so they start fighting each other, and then you realize how OP
Well, he-
flails are,
Well,
because
yeah,
flails are
well,
OP as
first
fuck.
he ended up
Right.
fucking up, and he ends up putting Kristen on the ground, but he turns around and starts celebrating.
That's
And
it.
that's
And
where
that's
he
what
fucked
fucked
up.
him up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because Kristen's like, oh, hell no, the fight ain't
Hell
over yet.
no.
Fight ain't over yet, you know?
Sweep that leg.
Uh-huh.
And then-
Yeah, and then we start
Right.
getting some flailing action.
Right.
And boy.
Seriously, flails are OP.
Yes.
Like, just watching that fight, I was like, oh no, you
Right.
couldn't do anything.
You
to
can't
that.
do anything. You gotta take
Oh,
one.
No.
You gotta
Dude,
take a
he's
hit.
just bashing that shield in and just
Uh-huh.
break.
Yeah.
Caught his sword, whipped it out of his
Yeah,
hand,
boy.
fucking put him on the ground.
Yeah.
And then
Damon tries to pull out a dagger.
and he's holding this up. He's like, and he steps on
He
his
steps on
hand,
his hand.
and has
He's
that
like-
flail aimed at his face.
he's
And he
like,
goes,
"Yield."
yield. And Damon almost doesn't yield.
Yes,
He almost
he's
He
like,
gets that look in his
"Yield."
eyes, and he finally just goes, and lets go just the slightest bit.
Yes.
And Damon backs up, and he goes to pick him up. He slaps his hand out of the way.
Right.
Fuck you, man.
Yeah, you know.
And Damon has to get up with that shit-eating grin and act like nothing happened. He's like, it's all in good fun. We're having a good time. I'm fine.
Somebody gonna die tonight.
Ooh, I'm killing this man later. Ooh. And
Oh,
so
God.
then-
Yeah, and
So-
the whole time they're getting the baby out.
They're getting the baby out.
That's-
So
And it is probably one of the more uncomfortable
so
scenes.
Viserys is
so
actually
far.
trying to
Fuck
comfort his
me
wife in her final
up.
moments, and
Yeah.
he's telling
Dude.
her, while all the handmaidens and everybody are pulling her arms and holding her down, and she's like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "They're going to bring the baby out." And she's like, "What does that mean?" Because
he
she
just
can tell
goes, "I love
something's
you."
wrong, and he's like, "I love you." And she's just like, wait, no, and that's when they cut into her. And I'm talking about.
By the way,
they do
cut
not
the
cut
wrong
away.
way. They cut the
Oh,
wrong
they
way.
cut.
You
Yeah,
don't-
they did.
no,
They
you
cut
do the,
long.
like, cut-
Yeah, they cut long way. They're like,
They cut long way. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, they didn't. They said we don't know how to do this procedure.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so it's a little experimental.
For real. Like, you're just gonna, cut the baby out.
Yeah.
You know, hey, yeah.
Seems
so,
simple enough, you know.
Yeah.
Just,
so they slashed her open,
No.
and shout out to her actress, man. Like that blood curdling scream,
dude. It was it was kind of hard to watch.
It was really
that
hard,
was a
to,
rough
hard
dude,
to watch.
And out of a character that we only meet for like half an episode and barely at that, man, I liked her so much.
I know, yeah. I really do wish that she could have lived for at least a few more episodes, but
she seemed awesome, but
that's not the way this show goes.
I know
that ain't the way it goes.
we don't get that.
No.
So they bring the baby out, and the maester announces that it's a boy, and at that point, Viserys is looking at his dead wife and regretting things, and at that point, and they barely even mention it, the maester just makes a face as he's looking at the child, at the infant, and you see him just look curiously, and you kind of hear a little cough.
Yeah, the baby cough. They didn't try to clear his airway or anything. They're just like, okay.
And he's just looking at him.
Uh-huh.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, but
baby and wife.
They did tell him
Dead.
that he did have a son.
And his name
so
was
it
Balon.
was a son, and he named him Balon.
Which was after his brother?
I
His
thought it was
grandfather?
his grandfather. Wasn't it after his grandfather?
It's after one of them.
Right, but it's someone who died young.
Right.
That's the thing that's fucked up about it, is
Yeah.
that who he named him after is someone who actually died rather young. And
Yeah, I thought it was in honor of his grandfather. But, I mean, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty confident that's what it was.
I'm not sure. But
We'll have
yes,
to look into that.
it's definitely
It's a family name.
It's a
family member
It's always a
who
fucking
did not
family.
make it. Of course, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now are we getting to the
Well, now we're getting
no.
to, since the baby
Daemon.
dies, then now we have to figure out who the next heir is going to be.
Right.
Quickly.
And
Very quickly.
I actually skipped over a thing that I didn't think about, which is Daemon and the Gold Cloaks.
Is that before this?
I'm not sure. It's after this. That's where I put it. Is
No, that's
so that's the
right.
next thing that happens. Then is them addressing Daemon going out and murdering folks.
Because he has to pick another heir, but Daemon is put over the city watch.
Right.
Who he has named the Gold Cloaks.
Right.
And they go into a city in the free cities and start basically rounding up all the criminals and punishing them brutally immediately. It's like, if you were a thief, you're getting your hand chopped today, right now. All right. If you're a raper, you're getting gilded. That's just happening. And they had a cart that
They
was
left
actually
them balls
over
on the table.
Yeah. And that cart's like overflowing with the amount of limbs that they're
Bring out
taking
your
from
dad.
people.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
for real.
Yeah,
But they're not
absolutely.
taking the whole bodies. They're just taking whatever limbs
They're
they
taking
claim.
pieces, and what is
Right.
it? That one of the dudes mentioned, like, as they're talking about what happened, they're like, they had to use 2 horse carts to cart away all the limbs.
Because
Yes.
this is the scene with the small council,
Right.
where everybody's kind of debating over.
After that, they're like, "This is what your brother just did, and
they're
he's
like,
a fucking
"Fuck this
madman,
guy."
and he's not the
Yeah.
one that needs to sit the throne." And and Viserys is just like, "Oh, he's my brother."
But the whole time, Daemon's listening through a secret room,
right,
You know,
yes,
which those rooms were where like Varys used to stand and listen to things, you know. So it's showing, because I mean, this is the Red Keep.
Right.
We've seen this place before. It's just all Targaryened up right now.
Right.
That's but yeah, so they're discussing the fact that he's too brutal to be king,
right,
and that they need to pick Viserys needs to pick another heir, which
he still wants to side with his brother.
He's right, because he's his blood, and then they
Yes.
start bickering over like the small things, because what you find out is that everywhere that Daemon's been placed in any kind of power,
right,
he's fucked up.
He's fucked it up
Yeah.
every time, which is why they end up sending his ass away.
Right.
You gotta go to the Vale, bro.
You gotta get the hell out of here, dude.
Damn.
You know. But, putting him in charge of the City Watch and giving him the Gold Cloaks also gave him the fealty of the City Watch / Gold Cloaks.
Right.
That's right.
So he essentially has an army.
He has his own private army.
Yes.
bad.
Very bad.
Because he actually, it seems like, he has their loyalty, and they are, listening to his command. And it's probably just because he's brutal. He comes out and they're like, oh, shit. This guy's awesome.
For real. And he has a dragon.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's great.
You tend to listen to people with dragons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is a Targaryen.
And hold on, the next thing. Wow, I have that in the wrong order. Hold on.
The next thing after that was he goes and rents out a whole ass whorehouse, and ends up taking all of his. Yeah, Daemon goes and basically just buys out the entire whorehouse and has all of his gold cloaks in there celebrating. And he does let it slip. He says, he raises a glass to the king for a day, or the heir for a day.
Heir for a day.
The heir for a day.
And then that's when
Otto Hightower had a spy in there who told him about it. And so he was like, okay. He goes to King Viserys and lets him know, hey, here's what your brother said about your dead, your dead son.
That is after the funeral, though. That is after the funeral, according to my list.
Okay.
But just to cover the funeral real quick.
Yeah, speaking of Targaryens don't burn.
Well, dead ones do.
Dead ones do, apparently.
That's what you do, because if you don't burn them, they may come back as a white.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those, and at this point,
I was just sitting there. I was just like, "Wait, aren't they fireproof?"
Yeah. See,
in life,
I'd love to know exactly where that line is.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think it's their soul that burns.
That's it.
Right. Yeah. Some Soul Calibur shit, dude.
Shit.
They basically have a funeral pyre for the
Emma and the baby.
For Emma and Balon. And King Viserys can't even speak. Right. He's so torn up about everything that he can't even speak. And at that point, Rhaenyra shows up, and Daemon they start talking to each other in Old Valyrian again. And he's like, "This is when your father needs you. Like, if he needed you at any point in time, it's right now." Support.
She ends up having to do the eulogy, basically.
Well, all the eulogy is Dracarys.
Yeah.
Right.
So
and the thing is, you called this forever ago. You're like, we're gonna get a Dracarys moment.
Of course.
I wasn't expecting this to be the Dracarys moment.
We're probably gonna get a couple more.
Yeah, but this the kickoff one.
Right.
Ooh,
yeah.
This isn't the situation.
It's not a triumphant one.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, but. So Viserys finds out about Daemon saying what he said and goes to confront him, and is very, very much upfront about, fuck you, dude. How dare you say that?
He's
and
sitting on
the interesting thing is, like, Daemon is like, we all grieve in our own ways, brother.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, like, I kind of believe him.
I
don't think that he's not celebrating it. It's here's the situation, here's just what it is, and I'm just calling it like I see it, right? And that's just it.
He wasn't in court.
Right, know? Exactly. And it was one of those situations where, Viserys just in his grief wasn't able to see anything beyond that. It's like, if you're not grieving the same way that I'm grieving, then you leave. You get the fuck out of here.
You know what I mean?
He's just exactly. So he sends him back to the Vale, and names,
strips his title.
It strips him of his title, sends him back to the Vale, names Rhaenyra as his heir, and Daemon says, "Fuck that."
Daemon says, "Fuck that." But also at this point, that's when Otto explains to Alicent that Viserys is not exactly in a good way right now.
Yeah,
maybe if you could go hang out with him.
Yeah,
go comfort the king.
Go comfort the king.
And why don't you wear one of your mama's dresses?
For real. Wear one of your mama's thongs and your dresses. Over there.
Pimping out his own daughter to the king.
She was of age.
If I already didn't like Otto.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's you're not going to like.
There wasn't
this guy.
even a part of him that seemed like he was
hesitant
or there was no remorse about it. He's just like, oh shit, let's move. And
he
she's
saw
just
an
like,
opportunity and he stepped right into it.
Right, but it also makes you question Alicent, because she does what her father tells her to do. She does it for her family.
Yeah, but you can tell she doesn't like any
But she's
of this.
hesitant initially.
Yeah.
Initially,
She's also nervously picking at her fingers the whole show, right?
Yes.
That's her thing, is that she has this nervous tick because she does what she's told,
right?
But she obviously bottles up all this negative emotion inside,
right.
Yes.
So it's coming out as this picking fingers, bloody cuticles.
It's like, you're so beautiful. Why do you destroy yourself?
Yeah.
So the end of the first episode.
Oh, she brought a book.
Yes, but so she goes. She takes a book to the king. He shows her his train set.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, he's in there playing with his toy train.
Sitting there,
which is got his model,
which is the intro to the second
Well,
episode.
but the one thing that we can't forget is at the end of episode 1, you have the announcement that Rhaenyra will be the heir to the throne.
Right, and you got all the lords of the land.
She says nothing.
Yeah, she does.
You know, just that look, man, like that. It kind of gave me chills. I was like, oh my god, this might actually be strong. It might actually be strong.
Yeah. Well, I like the scene right before that because that's the last scene.
That's the very last scene. Yes.
But right before that, I like it when Viserys gets Rhaenyra down to the crypt.
Oh yeah, and shows her the head of not Balon,
Balerion. Shows her the head of Balerion. She's like, and he's like, this is the greatest dragon anyone's ever known. He lived more than 200 years. I was the last rider of this dragon.
Yeah, she's like, you rode him, and she's like, yeah, once.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but he also breaks the news to her that we don't control these.
Exactly. He's like, that's the myth about House Targaryen right there, is that we control these things. We should have never fucked with them.
Right.
That they're just a blight on humanity is what they are. And all we're doing is playing with fire, right?
Right.
But then he explains to her not only that, but he explains to her about Aegon's dream.
Right.
And Aegon Targaryen is the guy that settled Dragonstone.
Right.
He was the first to come over from Old Valyria, because at the time, everybody was like there was actually a dream prior to that about Valyria falling, right? And then Aegon, once everything started crumbling, took the remaining people. That's when they settled Dragonstone and Westeros, started expanding out that way. But Aegon had this dream of the Song of Ice and Fire,
right?
And that is his dream. That's the whole reason.
That's what he called the dream.
The Song of Ice and Fire, and it was all about what we know now is a war that doesn't happen for another 200 years.
Like they felt that it would happen like
any minute
within his within his life,
any fucking minute,
lifespan at least, you know. And it's like, nah, bro, still way.
Because that would have been another 100 years before this. Right. So we're talking about like a 300 or so year old situation that. Oh damn, we're having a little bit of a
Yeah, it looks like we got a little like kerfuffle happening over here. Let us know in chat if everything is still working out pretty well.
Looks like it's okay.
That's right.
Yeah, we're gonna keep rolling.
We're gonna get the shit knocked out.
We got a whole another episode to talk about.
Episode 1.
Right, we're done with episode 1.
So episode 2 opens up with the boy. And look, I'll tell you, I was happy to hear it.
I know.
Now, I know that there were a lot of people who complained about it. A lot of people were just like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. That was the identity of the original show. I was like, I think they're trying to save what it is that we loved at one point in time. They're like, okay, well, here, we're going to give this back to you. All right? But this time we're not going to fuck it up. Like, I promise.
We promise we're going to try really hard not to fuck this up.
Ain't nobody over here trying to make Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got this shit.
Hey, man, if they did another Westworld series, they better damn well use that theme again.
Oh, yeah.
That theme is brilliant. You know what I mean? And these are themes that are so good that if you made another one, all it would do was suck in comparison.
Exactly. Right. And it will be compared.
Right.
It will.
You know, it's like they went into this knowing that they're going to draw those comparisons. Kind of like the conversation that we were having about the Lord of the Rings and their new series. It's like people are going to draw these comparisons. So you have to really kind of like, you got to face it. You got to face it up front. Don't be afraid of it. Just go in head first, man. Go in head first. Right. And so, episode 2.
Episode 2 starts out, new intro, all good stuff. And then we are presented with a bunch of the king's sailors that have been shipwrecked and are nailed to things on the beach and letting crabs eat them.
Because the crab feeder.
We had worried about the crab feeder in the first episode.
Yes.
But it was really only minor little like, oh, have you guys heard about this crab feeder?
Yeah, now we're actually
like,
seeing
it. Yeah, because like, what's his name? Corliss. Yeah. He's just like, I want my ships. Like they've taken his ships.
Yeah.
And he's like,
we'll
let's go after the crab feeder. Yeah. And he's like, dude, where do you think the crab feeder is getting his ships from? It's like it's from those free cities. But he's nailing people to these like stakes driven into the beach.
He's like floor crucifying them.
Yes,
Pretty much, yeah.
and letting crabs as they come
eat
in
their
eat
fucking
the
flesh.
humans, and they give us a very detailed look at how that goes down.
It looks so bad.
It's so
the
bad.
hand with the skin sloughing off
Yes.
is one of the coolest things like that I've seen in the series so far.
And the crabs get in there; they are thorough.
Oh, they're under the skin.
They're very
that guy
thorough.
has got them all in his legs and
and
foot.
yeah.
No,
Just
don't
brutal.
let
Gross.
crabs eat
Out
you.
the gate.
Oh. So the other thing, because there's two things happening at the small council at this point, right?
Right.
There's the crab feeder, and then there's also Sir Ryam, who died,
Right.
who was the leader of the King's Guard at that
Exactly.
point. Okay,
And they have to
not
replace
not
him.
Mustache Man. Mustache
Right.
Man's fine.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, he's all good. I want to see him in a war. But Sir Ryam died. We never saw him. Whatever.
Right, but they have to pick another knight to replace him in the King's Guard.
But that was the first thing they covered. Then they started talking about crab feeder, and
During all of this, Rhaenyra has been
Right.
made the cupbearer
Right.
for
Of the
the
king.
small council.
So
Yeah.
she's walking
So-
around, filling them cups,
Right.
doing her thing,
Right.
and listening to what's going on. And in the middle of it,
As we all know from watching the original Game of Thrones, if that's all that you know, cupbearer basically just trains you for being in office, being
Right,
you know,
right, yeah.
Like you're
Well,
learning
it gives
everything
you-
that you need to know.
you're an assistant to the council.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
you're
you're
being
there.
trained.
You see what goes on.
You hear all the conversations,
Right.
but you hear them in 100% truth, because just like anybody who's worked in a restaurant will tell you, people don't think that you're a real person. You're not even a human. You're not even present. We could say whatever. It does not matter,
I am
because
totally
you
not
are
that
just,
way. Like I'll be telling a story, and then I see the server coming. I'm like, I'll tell you.
Hold on to that thought.
Yeah, that's a whole ass person over there.
Yeah,
But in this regard, they don't really,
They don't
pay
even
her
notice
any
that she's
attention.
there, even though she is the fucking princess.
She is,
Right.
exactly. She's heir to the throne, and she
Until
because they're trying to figure it out, because like Corlys is pissed off because his ships got destroyed.
Yes.
And Viserys is like, we'll compensate you for all your ships. He's like,
Right.
fuck that. I don't want to get compensated. I want to roll
I
on
want to
them.
roll
want
on them.
revenge. Yeah.
It's like,
Destroy
dude, we're
them.
not just going to go to war with the free
With the
cities.
free
Like, what are you
cities,
talking
right.
about, dude? Yeah.
Which it sounds to me like part of the reason that this has even happened is because Daemon and the Gold Cloaks went to war on the free
cities, exactly.
Right? So this is
Right.
almost the retaliation from Crab Feeder, right? So
Right.
that's kind of cool. Maybe Crab Feeder's actually
This
not
is our
back
tickler.
there.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Ooh, the
Yeah, totally.
tickler.
Uh-huh.
yeah, but they're
Bro.
and then
The second they told me about the crab feeder, I'm like, they did not. They went for the tickler. It's like, oh, what can be equivocal, if not worse?
Right.
You know?
It's pretty bad. Pretty
It's
fucking
really
bad.
fucking bad.
Yeah.
And so,
So Rhaenyra, in the middle of hearing all this, she goes, "We have dragon rights.
why don't you
Right.
just why don't you
send
just
us? Why don't you
send
send
us?
send
And
the
Right.
dragon
and that's the
riders?
thing she said. Didn't say send
Them.
send them. She said send
us.
us.
Right.
Right.
Well,
like,
because she
yeah.
knows she's the shit.
Oh, yeah,
That's why.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, because of her outburst, everybody's just like, "Oh God, she doesn't know her place."
Isn't there
Except for Corlys.
something else that the
Corlys-
princess could be
Corlys is
doing?
down.
Corlys
dude.
is just like at least somebody has a plan.
least- right.
You know, at least someone has a strategy.
Uh-huh.
And of course, everyone else is just like, oh, she's stepping outside of her realm. And so, of course, they send her to her room. Daddy's just like, why don't you
Well, they
go and
send
take
her-
our new night?
Which I think is allusion to Corlys being more on Rhaenyra's side than we realize, right?
Of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
right.
Right, 'cause
Well, also with her youth and everything, I think he sees an opportunity to maybe get in closer with the future. However, that might, he knows how to rub shoulders.
I think he likes her more than he likes her father. That's
Right.
all I'm saying.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
Exactly. And so if that gets him closer to the throne, it's whatever. But she's also a bit of a hothead, and so he's like, "Cool, I can manipulate that. I can work with that."
Right.
Yep. But so basically, they all disregard her.
Right.
And they're like,
right.
"No, we can't do that. Come on, we're not going to send dragons over there. We're going to be more amicable." And then wait, is this at that point where he invites him to the wedding?
No.
Isn't that where, that's
No, no,
later.
no,
That's later
when he
on.
gets
That's
Yeah,
later
because
on.
they send Rhaenyra over to pick out the next knight to replace.
Right. That's what I have next year.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she's standing in a courtyard, up on a balcony, and she has Mustache Man and Otto there with her, and they're just trying to figure out who's going to replace
They're
Ryan.
going to let her select, whoever's going to replace Sir Ryan.
Yeah.
And every single one of the... Now, it is kind of dope how each one of these guys had a statue representative of them. That was so fucking sick. It's like Skylanders.
But
you know what I'm saying?
You also noticed that Kristen Cole's was much more plain.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they also didn't want to talk about that guy.
Right.
You know?
I know.
And so, like, they're presenting all these guys like, oh, no, he caught some poachers.
Right.
And
she's just standing there, and then like Otto's looking at him. He's like, well,
you should thank him for his service.
Right.
You know, she's like, I thank you. And she responded immediately,
she
though.
did.
Like, she's on it, you know, but she's also not impressed by anything that she's looking at. She's like, none of these guys have ever seen combat. None of them should be part of the King's Guard. Has anybody seen combat? And they're like,
and they're like, God damn it, Kristen Cole.
Kristen Cole.
Yeah.
So, and of course, she's already got a thing for Kristen because he bested her uncle.
Well, but he asked for her favor.
Right?
Yes.
He gave her that smirk. She's like, ooh, a Dornish boy.
I like them.
But then so you find out in this situation that no, he's not exactly Dornish. He actually fought against the Dornish for House Dondarrion.
Right.
So there's that.
But she chooses him immediately. She's like, be welcome, sir. And she's like, well, I choose Kristen Cole. Like, the second he tells her about his combat experience, you're the one.
Yep.
And because she was also told that this night would be the night to guard her.
Right.
So that is the Queen's Night, for the lack of a better term.
The Queen's Night. Yeah, good.
Yes.
So the next thing that happens is you see the budding relationship between Alicent and Viserys.
Right.
Because she continues to hang out with him and play with his train set.
Well,
because he broke one of his dragons trying to show her,
Yeah.
all the different stuff. He was like, I don't actually create this. The Stone Meisters made all of this, but I give them the histories and the plans.
Right.
And what happened right there?
No. Well, we might have lost the stream.
It says we're still live though.
Okay, well, then let's rock it.
This is just on our side.
All good.
Cool. But and so she actually does have that repaired for him.
Right.
Like, I think that she does somewhere actually sympathize with the guy. She gets why she's there, but he's also not like trying to make moves on her. There's one point where they get close
because
and
he's
he kind of
actually
makes
a
eye
right
contact.
guy.
Yeah.
Right, he does make eye contact with her at one point.
Right.
And she kind of looks away, and he just doesn't.
And he's like, okay, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Well, and she's empathizing with him.
She is.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's kind of like family.
He is.
He's like an uncle to her.
And he even asked her about Rhaenyra. Like, he's like, do you tell her about these thoughts?
He's like,
or these
it's
thoughts
so
that we
hard
have?
it's really hard to talk.
Yeah, it's like, I would never know that, the most difficult thing would be talking to my 15-year-old daughter.
Right.
Out of all the things, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's so fucking rough.
Right.
And so he's like, do you let her know about our talks or anything? And she's like, no.
Maybe sometimes a father should approach a daughter about these things. And he just gets this look like, oh shit! Have I been fucking up? Because he's worried about that. He wants to have a good relationship with her.
Right, and they're both suffering from the loss of her mother.
Right.
But they haven't
cleared
the air about that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, dude. Yeah.
Appreciate it, brother.
And then the next scene, which I think is super sweet, is the prayer scene.
Is that before the dinner? That's before the dinner. Yes.
I think this scene's super sweet.
So that's really the last time we get to see Rhaenyra and Alicent spending time together as friends. But then you also get to see that Alicent is changing and starting to kind of manipulate a little bit, because that was her whole thing, is how do I redirect Rhaenyra towards her father at this point. And so they sit in front of the circular pit of fire or of candles, and she's like, when I'm here, she's like, come kneel with me. This is how I basically commune with my mother.
And she's like, I don't know how to pray. I've never done this before.
She's like, whatever you say is between you and the gods.
Right.
And
she starts breaking down.
Yeah, she does. Yeah. And she's like, maybe you should go to your father. Maybe you should talk to him. And so we get our dinner scene. Is that directly after what happens next?
The next thing that happens is actually when House Valerian comes to Viserys.
Oh yeah.
Would you mind doing that?
Yeah. So Corlys, goes to Viserys, and he's like, well, you still have to produce an heir.
Right.
We have to make this decision very, very quickly. And so he presents his daughter as an option.
Who's 12?
His 12-year-old daughter, yes, as an option for the king to wed. And of course, Viserys is just like
he's just like
bruh,
she's a kid,
bruh. You know what I'm saying? Like
ew.
you know what I'm saying? Like, you want me to do what? He's like, well, you got to produce an heir.
Yeah,
like, you've got to do it. And he's
this
like, join our houses, and that'll join our strength. His house is also from Old Valyria, so historically speaking, they are as ancient can be as far as bloodline.
Well, and too, when you see him kind of walking through like this courtyard type area, like him, Viserys and dude's daughter.
Well, that was a little bit later. This is just them trying to present the idea to him at first, and he's not all about it. He ends up actually telling Alicent about the situation, which she knows how to play cards, man. That girl knows how to play cards. You know what I'm saying? She's like, oh, a very wise decision, my king. You know, and it's like, he's like, I'm sure she will be good and kind as I. You know, as good and kind as I would have been. You know, and it's just like, dude, she's just planting those seeds, man. Baby girl is playing. And so, but then, that's when, Viserys is like, oh, okay. And then we get their date.
Yeah, their date.
Yeah.
And you could tell he is uncomfortable as fuck with every bit.
He's walking around with his, she's an adorable little mixed kid, with her gorgeous white hair, and she's like very much a 7th grader,
and she's asking questions about the dragons. She's like, "Oh, you rode Balerion? That's so cool.
That's so cool." He's like,
"What?"
And then she's like,
you can tell he's kind of ignoring her.
Oh yeah, he's just like, "I don't want to be here."
Yeah. But he's still being amicable, he's being very, very cordial. And then she's like, "Well, I would be a kind and good queen, a loyal queen, and provide you with many heirs." And he's like, "Is that what your father told you to say?" And she's like, "Yes."
Tell you to say
that I wouldn't have to bed you until I was 14.
And then everybody goes, "Oh." Even him,
collectively,
him, he's going like, "I don't even want to fuck you when you're 14."
Yeah.
It's all bad. Can't I have an adult?
Or something closer to it,
really?
But then you get the scene with Rhaenyra and the queen who never was, and I love that scene.
It's really good.
It's really
good.
Because
Rhaenyra's been staring at him the whole time on this walk.
And
Rhaenys is sitting back, staring at her.
Yeah. And Rhaenyra's like, doesn't this like upset you?
Yeah.
And she's like, of course it does.
Yeah.
But no, she asked Rhaenyra at first, does it upset you?
Yeah.
She's like, well, does it upset you? It's your daughter.
It's your daughter.
Yeah.
And she's like, of course it does.
But I understand the rules, and you don't seem to understand the rules.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd she say?
This one,
Men would rather burn down.
They'd rather see the city, rather see the realm burn than to have a woman sit the Iron Throne.
That's it.
And
she's like,
and then Rhaenyra,
because she's like, they chose. She was upset because they chose.
Right, and they're still
goddamn it, Viserys.
Viserys.
I keep getting tripped up with all these goddamn.
I
wish I had my notes, man. I wish I had my notes.
But
but she was like, Rhaenys was like, no, they just didn't choose you. They chose him over you.
You can tell that burns her.
Oh,
dude.
deep. Rhaenys was.
It's good, and that's why, dude. That's probably my favorite scene so far.
You and I,
like, that was really good.
Yeah,
like a lot of really good character work there.
Yeah, she's like, our battlefield is played in childbirth. Like that is.
Yeah, and of course Rhaenyra is still just like, nope, not mine.
Yeah, that's not what I want to do.
I read dragons, bitch.
Yeah,
don't make me roll on you.
So the maggots scene.
So we already talked about how Viserys cut his finger on the Iron Throne.
Well, you finally see it. He's got this raggedy banded.
Yeah, for real. I'm like, you are a king, man.
Come on.
You ain't got nobody to wrap that shit up. I could wrap it better, bro. I got you.
So he pulls this bullshit off, and it does. It kind of looks like GraeScale, doesn't it? It kind of does, but it also could just be that his shit's rotting off.
Yeah,
right.
It's fucked up. Fucked all the way up. And so they put the Grand Maester puts his hand into a plate full of maggots.
Plate of maggots.
Yeah. And he's like, the maggots will eat off the dead skin and hopefully slow down the infection.
Should use crabs.
Gross.
Well, I mean, but then again, those maggots might have been a metaphor, man. Like for all the people that are just eating away at Viserys.
Yeah. I don't know. It gave me flashbacks to Green Hell. That's what I got to do all the time.
Really?
Got this infection here. Let me shove these maggots in.
Right.
I'll be all right. I'll be good.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, like, they're trying all of this experimental medicine because they cannot heal these wounds.
I like that part because right then he pretty much has everybody except for Corliss in the room with him. Right. Well, not that weird
that's
little
because
fat guy,
because he's telling the small council that, hey, this is what Corliss wants. Corliss wants me. This is the first time Otto Hightower.
And Otto goes,
here's about
this is something that should be said to the
small council. He's like, that's what I'm doing right now. As I'm presently doing it. Have you ever been in a conversation like that, man? How many times did that happen in your life where you're trying to talk about some shit and then somebody's trying to tell you, like, well, I mean, you should have brought that up to me. Like, but this is the conversation. We're having the conversation right now. We're in it, okay? But he does, man. It's like Hightower finds out that what's Corliss's daughter's name? Starts with a D.
Lena.
Oh, it's Lena? Lena starts with no. Oops. And so the Lady Lena, right? Lady Lena. And he's like, he offered me the hand of Lady Lena. And Otto's face, he's just like, we cannot allow this to happen.
It's like I've been working on this for weeks.
Right, for real, dude. It's like,
this motherfucker just gonna step into
my
world.
Girl pussy, man. What's wrong with really? You know what I'm saying? You like a little 12-year-old, and he's just like, nah, man.
No, I don't.
Well, he probably doesn't
like it. He's like, I just need. I mean, he's like, you're my counsel. Counsel me. And the Grand Meister, of course, as maesters are wont to do, he's just like, that's a great idea for the realm. He gives him the
bullshit answer.
Yeah, he's like, well, for the realm, just do it. Life goes on, man. He's like, she's 12 years old. He's like, well, she'll mature. That's what he said. She'll mature. And Hightower's over there just like, no. Like, this is a coup. This man's trying to, like, take over, and oh, my God.
I want to take over.
And I want to take, exactly. Alicent was in the room. No, he told Alicent No, that was before.
No. That's the end of the episode.
Wait.
That you're thinking of. You're thinking of the end of the episode.
No. I thought the end of the episode was when he made the decision. That was before.
Alicent wasn't in the room when he had the maggots.
But Alicent had a control. No.
Not when he had the maggots.
Alicent had already had that talk with him. He had already told Alicent about Lady Lena.
Right.
And then this is when the small council first finds out about it. Alicent was not in the room then. Okay, so what do you have?
Next thing is him getting the wedding invitation from Daemon.
That's the thing.
Because Daemon went to Dragonstone, kicked everybody out, took a dragon egg. The dragon egg that was supposed
to be Balon was supposed to have the heir for a day.
And then he taunted his brother by being like, hey, I invite you
I'm
to my
getting married
wedding.
to my whore, and you are invited.
And we're going to have a kid, and I'm going to put this egg in their crib, as is tradition.
Right. And it's happening tomorrow. Yeah. And so Otto Hightower is just like, I'll go. Right? I'll go, and I'll talk to Daemon. And they do. And this is really one of the... It's probably the worst CG I've seen in the entire show
with
so
the dragons?
far. No, the bridge.
The bridge
doesn't look so
the
good.
bridge looks real bad.
Well, why do you think there's so much fog?
Right.
Well, I mean,
the dragons look good though.
The dragons look good.
Yeah.
And so, so they go. Otto Hightower goes with his army, and they, meet up with Daemon on the bridge. Daemon's like, I don't see my brother. And he's like, man, the king is not going to lower himself to come to this.
He's like, come on, what are you done?
Bullshit, bro. What the fuck is wrong with you? He's like, you sully your name at every turn. You sully your entire family. He starts talking that good shit,
he
man.
Does.
Dude, he's just like laying into it.
And he's like, come on, don't you realize that if you strike us down, then that's war with your brother.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you won't survive this. And Damon's like, fine,
you won't
either. He's like, fine. You know what I'm saying? And then he sees
you ready to up them things?
I'm ready to up them things.
Oh, yeah.
And then he sees Kristen Cole.
Boy burns him like a boss.
What's his name? What's his name? Crispin?
Crispin?
Yeah, he's just like, Kristen Cole, sir. You might remember me as the one that. You might remember me when I knocked you off your horse.
Yeah, do you remember
Damon
me?
Totally gives him this look like,
well played. I'm gonna kill you.
That's good shit talking there, buddy. At least I like that.
He's spelling out them good burns.
Right, he is, dude.
Hell yeah.
He even burned a Targaryen.
Oh,
that's how you burn a Targaryen.
Absolutely, wicked burn. Even though he was unfazed. Yeah. He was unfazed. He takes it like a champ.
But right there, as tensions are boiling,
so they sheathe their swords. They start drawing down on one another. Exactly. And then Daemon's dragon comes over the mountainside, and they're like, "Oh, sheathe your swords, boys!"
Right. And so everybody puts their shit up. And then
then the clouds start billowing, and who is it?
Rhaenyra and Syrax.
And Syrax,
that's right.
Absolutely.
What's his
and she
dragon's
lands.
name?
would have to look it up.
Yeah.
But the way she expertly lands on that bridge, bro.
Oh, and then the way that it gracefully like tilts down to let her off and everything. I'm like,
ooh.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
100%
good.
control. And then she even tells him, she's like, "Be careful." She's very protective of me.
Yeah.
You know.
and they all just part out of her way.
Yep.
And
Oh,
I love
yeah.
her,
No,
her,
well, of course, like,
scale
Otto's. Yeah.
leather.
Yeah, well, of course, like, Otto's like, what are you doing here? And she's just, like, preventing bloodshed.
And then she starts talking to her.
Yeah,
her
she walks
uncle.
straight up to Damon, who's holding the egg, and she starts talking to him in
High
Valerian.
Valerian again, and so
Like,
nobody else
doing?
knows what the hell's going on. They're all like, "Fuck, I wish we could be included in this."
Yeah, but she's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I don't like this shit either. I know you don't like me, but I don't like any of this shit.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is an act of open war against our house. What the fuck, man? You know what I'm saying? Then she speaks to him in English. She's like, well, you'd have to
Then you have
kill
to kill me.
You
If
got to
you
kill
want
me.
your reign,
If
you gotta kill me.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you want to be heir, you have to kill me first. So why don't you get it over with and cut through all this bother?
And he stares at her. He's like, "Shit, you right."
Goddamn.
Turns around, tosses that egg at her.
Tosses that
at range. Like, he is far as fuck
goes,
away.
"Bah."
Like,
Nah, whatever.
you know?
Hope you catch that shit.
And so she does fortunately catch it, and she's very satisfied with herself. Goes and,
No, she actually smiles.
she
when
smiles.
She grabs
She
that
grabs
egg.
it. She's like,
She looks
"Fuck,
at it.
dude, I'm
like,
doing this thing.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm doing it, man." And so they return, and she's very proud of herself, but her father's pissed, and he's like, "What do you think you were doing?" And she was like, preventing bloodshed. As I'm not sure that I got the egg back without bloodshed, as I'm not sure that Otto Hightower could have done.
And he wouldn't have been able to.
And
No.
her dad,
No.
He's
dude,
too hot-headed. And
Well,
too
because
dumb.
Damon wouldn't have let him.
Oh, no.
Damon's too cool,
Period.
and Otto hates him too
right.
much.
He would have
Right.
provoked him.
He'd
Just
have,
provoking
he'd
him.
have let Damon would have killed them
Yeah.
and then let things go to war
Yes.
out of spite.
Out of spite.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And so
I think he was happy when he saw Otto show up. He's like, "Ooh, I
He's
got to
like,
fuck with you today."
Fucking, I ain't been able to fuck with you for a while.
Yeah, man. And so, but after she, returns and she tells him, what she was capable of, what she did, he immediately turns his entire attitude switches, and he's like, "I forgot how much like me you are." He's like,
Yeah, I know. He's just happy
he's
to
like,
see
"God,
her again.
dude." He's like, "No, you're right. You did. You went and did some shit that nobody else could have done, and no one's dead." And fuck,
Right,
Yeah.
because he wants to chastise her.
Right.
He really wants to dig into his daughter, but then he's
Uh-huh.
like, "But you're right."
That's why I think
yeah.
I'd be a shitty
Okay.
dad, man. It's like I have
Hey,
a
I
friend.
know what
I've
you
got a
mean. There's
friend who
sometimes-
his daughter, man, like got into a fight at school. Some dude was like bullying one of her friends.
Oh,
and
you told me about this,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. And the dude was just being rude to her, and she goes over there and just kicks the boy in the balls. Justice, right? I was so happy,
Right.
Not my kid, so I can be like, woo, And but I asked him, I was like, is she in trouble, man? Are you mad? He was like, I don't know. And I'm like, because you can't just go home and celebrate it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's like, are you going to punish her? He's like, we'll just have to have a long talk.
That's it.
And it's just like, oh, no. But every time we saw each other, we're like, oh,
Man.
Yeah, it's like, you're raising her right. Let's go. But he was proud of her, man.
Yeah, he was.
He was really, really proud of her.
He saw who she could be.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, we get the small council meeting again.
Where he announces.
Oh, dude, it's so fucking tight in there
Yeah,
because because what he goes is, I've decided to
Remarry.
take a wife.
Yeah.
take a wife, and Corliss goes,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
he straigens up. He's
so,
just like, yeah,
he's
here
so
we go.
confident that it's gonna be his daughter. It's
like,
oh
yeah?
so confident.
and he's like, and he looks at Alicent, and Alicent looks down. And Rhaenyra looks at Alicent, and
she's
Rhaenyra
like,
looks
"Wait,
at her
what the
dad,
Yeah,
fuck?"
and she's
like,
like, and then he goes, "It's
"What?"
gonna be Alicent
The lady,
Hightower."
Alicent Hightower.
And Otto's like, "Oh, I did it."
Right.
Corliss
I
gets the
knew
fuck up and
I
he's
knew
like,
I should have told her to wear
Right.
mom's dress.
For
That was
real.
what
That
sealed
That
it.
dress
mama's
got
dress.
me.
His
Yeah.
That was
mama's
the
dress.
dress that got me. I knew it.
And Corliss is angry.
Dude, he's
pissed.
so
livid.
mad.
He gets
Yeah.
up. He's like, "This is a grave mistake," and storms out.
Rhaenyra follows him.
She's also pissed off.
Well, because she doesn't know, like, she knew he was taking an heir. They just had a conversation directly before this
Yeah,
about the them both grieving for
right, they had a dinner,
Emma,
and they did have that conversation.
And she's talking about the whole like, look, I grieve for her, you know, and he's like, I grieve for her too every day. That's all I can think about.
And he's like,
but
she's like, I understand that you have to produce an heir for the realm.
And he's like, good, because I don't want you to think
like,
that I'm you know, disgracing
my wife.
But she thinks
that he's gonna marry the
Lena.
Yeah,
Lena? Somebody.
Lena?
Yeah.
L-A-E-N-A.
Somebody, and
Lena.
anybody else except her, like,
Her
friend.
best
Well,
friend.
she
Her
thinks
best
that he's
friend.
just gonna marry the 12-year-old.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, well, if that's what you got to do, sucks. That's what you got to do. And that was the ultimate bonding moment between those two.
God.
And then
he just dashes that.
Yep.
Yeah,
right.
boy.
Which she's pretty much like really, she's in shock, and she's standing there, and after Corlys storms out, she's just in silence, and then eventually they look over at her, hey, Rhaenyra, and she doesn't even speak to anybody. Storms the fuck out as well. And at that point, we get to see a very interesting looking crab feeder man.
Yeah.
Because then they're showing two things happening. They're showing Corlys talking to somebody.
Well, yeah, that
having
was
a conversation.
Yes, he starts having
Corlys
that conversation.
having a conversation.
Right.
Aren't they showing these two things at the same time though?
No.
I really thought they were at the same.
The first time they're just showing him having the conversation, then they slowly pan while he's talking to who he's having the conversation with.
Right.
It happens to be Daemon. And so he's talking to Daemon about how short-sighted the king is, and about how the king is going to lead them all to ruin, et cetera, and how similar he and Daemon are. You know, how they're both like the second sons who are trying to find their glory and come into themselves.
And he's like, what do you mean, to tell me about my misfortunes? Or is there a point to this conversation?
Exactly. And he's just like, no, your brother is just, poor at being king, And this is when you really also get that little shining moment for Daemon, because Daemon's sitting there, he's sitting there by the fireplace, and he's like, I will speak how I will about my brother.
And you
will
do
not.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
And it makes you like Daemon even more, because you're like, fuck, even though he's kind of a bastard, he's still a man of principle.
I'm about to say, he's got principles.
Right.
He's not a good guy.
Yeah.
But
just because he's a bad guy doesn't mean he's a bad
guy. Doesn't mean he's a bad guy. Well, you can tell he legitimately cares for his family.
He cares for his family number one, dude.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like
he should sit the throne.
Yeah.
So then after you find out this joining between Corlys and Daemon,
that's when we start.
That's when you see the beach scene again, and this is actually showing this one weird, skinny, fucked up looking guy
just nailing people's hands to these posts,
and then you see his face, and it's this gold mask that's broken kind of halfway, and everything's burned underneath his skin. He looks like he has barnacles growing on him. Like this man looks crazy.
He looks crazy as
into
fuck.
the episode. So he's our actual villain, I guess.
Well,
like you said, like the Tickler. He's like a but he seems like he's more of a
the Tickler.
problem.
I guess they usually kind of use him as like this guy exists and it's a problem, but you don't. He's not like a big bad. You know what I'm saying?
This
he's
seems
just like a guy who tortures.
But he's also apolitical from the two sides, it seems.
Right.
You know?
Well, I think that's the thing. I think something's going to happen. They're going to end up, probably Daemon's going to be like, okay, well, we just have to go down there and kill this crab feeder.
Yeah.
And then that's going to spark dissent with the free cities against the throne.
Yeah.
And we'll just incite a war. You know?
Oh, that's how you see it going?
I mean, that's a theory, because that could very easily happen. Look, the crab feeder can't be around for long.
Right.
Like that, not like he has some like superpowers or some kind of like skill set. He just like, he's just brutal. He's just a brutal bastard. However, he's kind of the people's champion, as brutal as he is, the free cities are all about him just doing whatever he's fucking doing.
Yeah.
And so if something does happen to him, then that's gonna be this. What was it like? Powder keg.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's gonna be the thing. He's gonna be the spark. That's my theory.
So what do you think? What do you think about?
Like overall?
Well, yeah. Overall, do you think?
I don't have any theories about what's going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to continue watching the show. I like I said before we started getting really all into it, it hasn't really hooked me yet. I can get off the line.
Okay.
Like very, very, very easily, and not even worry about what happens later. I'm going to continue watching because I do feel like they are setting up some interesting things, and Rhaenyra is really good.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I
she's
like
awesome.
her.
She's phenomenal.
I want to see what she ends up doing. Specifically. You know, it's kind of like how Arya was for me. Initially in Game of Thrones.
Right.
Like,
Arya,
she was kind of, at a certain
character.
point, she was the reason that I was watching that show. Because I'm like, she's badass. I want to know what she does. You know,
that's my favorite character the whole ride. You know?
Man, Samwell Tarly, dude.
Right.
Poor Tarly.
Yeah, I love some Samuel too. You know?
It's really,
it does suck that everybody called her the ugly Daenerys, though. Like,
yeah, that's some bullshit.
That's what they said.
That's so cold.
That's
you didn't
cold.
see. You didn't see the. I sent it to the group chat.
No, I didn't see that
Yeah,
one.
dude, it's so
that's
so
just
cold.
people being dicks.
Well,
online.
but they also aesthetically paint her very similarly to Daenerys.
They
And
do.
it's
Oh, yeah,
all,
they do.
and it's all for callback's sake, right? It's all just to have that familiar imagery for people who were fans of the original. It's like, oh, well, here's something that you will definitely recognize. And Emilia Clarke is just like ridiculously beautiful, but they also
I do think she's way prettier as a brunette, though.
I agree. I agree. You know, usually across the board, but I also think that Daenerys was always presented in a much more feminine sense. You know, she was always very effeminate.
Absolutely.
You know, to the point of almost being, she was helpless when we first met her. You know what I'm saying? Like she was absolutely helpless. If it wasn't for, her brother Viserys, you know what I'm saying? She was getting pawned off. You know what I'm saying? She got traded for horses.
Yeah, well, he got his crown.
You know, right. He did. He did. And so, but that's the thing. And so, but with her being more of that, you know, kind of like that tomboyish, that roguish, that, you know, like Arya, you know, I think that her look is very, very fitting. And we all know that there's going to be a time skip, and this actress won't be playing that role.
Right. But I think she's doing an amazing job.
I think she's doing. Oh, they're crushing it.
A whole bunch of credit to her and Damon, Matt Smith.
Matt Smith. Hell yeah,
dude. Matt Smith's killing it, and both of them are speaking Valerian really well.
Really well.
I mean, they're putting the work in, dude. You know, I can't really say that I dislike anybody's acting. I might not like their character, but that's different.
But that's
from
different.
The acting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because like Otto, I don't like Otto. But the actor's doing a great job of being that guy.
Being a big slime ball. Yeah, absolutely. That is, he is killing it.
Yeah, he's spot on with it. But I mean, also, I'll say that, like, okay, we all know going into this, we all had a little bit of trepidation.
Of course, yeah.
But the show is very well written.
It's already well written.
It's very well written. I think that the pacing is good, man. I think that they're really ticking all the boxes for me. As something that I really kind of didn't want to like. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. You know, and I hate having that old man brain about myself in those situations. It's like I'm so disappointed with the way the Game of Thrones ended that anything else, I hate spinoffs. I just don't like them inherently. All the Walking Dead spinoffs, they can kick rocks. I really have no interest.
I don't feel as much like this as a spinoff,
but it's not. It's just like it just focuses
on a different time period.
Right. It focuses and then that time period that's focused on is already written out. Right. So everything that they're going to draw from,
they don't have to wait.
Exist.
Right.
It's not like
they don't have to make shit up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's
they
already
they can pull from the source material.
Lore.
Yeah.
Right. And so
this is obviously going to be a shorter series. Than, you know, Game of Thrones, but that's fine. Because
I wonder if they'll lead to like different houses. I wonder if they'll do House of the Dragon, House of the Lion.
Short and sweet, man.
What I'm to understand
House of the Stag.
is that they're House
of the Stag.
They're all dumb.
Shit, fuck that. I like shit. I'd actually like to see the war that Ned and Robert fought in. You know, maybe get
the whole Aerys Targaryen era.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This could end that way.
It could
this
go
could easily time skip all the way up to that, and we could see the death of the Mad King. You know, that'd be, dude. That would if they did that. That would pull so many people that love the original subject, like the original Game of Thrones. That would pull people right back in. If you get to see Jaime Lannister,
his name is Rhaegar.
Rhaegar Targaryen.
That's the one.
Yes.
I was trying as hard as I
bro.
can this whole time.
GG's. But if we actually did get to see, like, you know, the Kingslayer, just doing work, like
stabbing the king in the back.
I'm telling you.
At the same time, Baratheon's putting that hammer in Rhaegar's chest, because those happened at the same time.
Yes, dude.
You know,
dude, if that's how this shit concludes, then they just win. They just win.
Yep.
You know, and so we'll see what happens.
It just makes me think back to season 1 and Robert trying to put on the fucking president.
Dude.
Didn't you hear? The king is too fat for his armor. Go get the breastplate.
Yeah, dude. God damn, dude.
How long do you think it's going to take him to notice that this doesn't exist?
I love Robert so much, man.
I love
when
Robert.
Robert's dying and he's like, just, write it down. That's the Robert Baratheon, first of his name, king of the... You know the bloody words.
I loved him, man. First season was gold for me, man.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
well,
no, this is shaping up to be, if anything, if nothing else, a very competently made, competently acted, competently written, and I think they're going to do some interesting stuff eventually.
Yeah,
well,
and again, it's like, yes, this is just coming.
Right?
This is coming from like the opinion of just 2 episodes, and like I said, and again, it hasn't hooked me quite yet.
Yeah.
But it could.
But it also hasn't pushed you away.
It hasn't pushed me away.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there. I'm not necessarily.
I think me and you were sold.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily sitting on the fence, but I am leaning on it.
I'm all about it because
leaning on that
comparison between this and the Lord of the Rings, the new Lord of the Rings, it's going to exist. They both.
The difference is that
both
they're
have
talking
giant
to the
boots.
writer on this one.
Right.
Yeah.
They both have giant boots to fill,
Yeah.
right? Like absolutely immense boots to fill. And I think it's also a little bit harder on the showrunners for House of the Dragon because of how Game of Thrones ended.
That's
like there are already people who are like, no, I'm not watching that anymore. I invested years into that thing, and then it shat on me, and so I'm done.
Because that's
Lord
what I
of
was
the
trying
Rings,
to say
people
with
will
The
watch
Hobbit.
it because they expect.
Right.
People are like, oh, The Hobbit's bad. I'm like, well,
The Hobbit isn't as bad as the end of Game of Thrones.
Right, exactly. It's not. It's not nowhere close. Nowhere close. And also, you didn't have to wait as long for it, right? Like it wasn't this build up where you're sitting there speculating about a thing. It's an adaptation, right? So that helps a lot. However, like Lord of the Rings is out there, and I'm like, I really don't want to watch it, but I feel like I have to. I feel like I really, really have to just to sate my curiosity at this point.
So this is my theory, and I told you this last night. We should watch it, but we just shouldn't watch it as soon as it airs so that they don't get those initial numbers.
Right.
Fuck them. But at the same time, I want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I might just pirate it for the sake, even though I have Amazon.
Wow.
Prime.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Just so they don't get that number.
Just so you don't get a
that's
number.
one less
That's
stream,
right.
you bastard. Yeah. I'm with it. But I'm like House of the Dragon. I'm here for it.
And with this episode, we have to announce that we will be continuing to talk about House of the Dragon. Every Sunday evening. As soon as the episodes, well, maybe not as soon as it's over.
Right.
After
we watch it.
After we watch it, after we have the time, we're going to start doing every week with that. In general, we're going to start streaming a couple of other interesting things. You guys talked about doing Akudama Drive the same way.
Eventually,
right?
yes.
But like we're basically going to try to be doing more streams more often about content.
More short format streams. More focused streams as well.
It'll be about a singular thing rather than our general podcast.
Now we'll still have the show. Don't worry about that. We're still here for you, but we just want to produce more content for you guys.
Yeah.
And I am actually putting up edited versions of the show.
Absolutely.
Right now, it's just the main topics, just basically cutting off the end and throwing them up on YouTube and Anchor. So that's where you can find more direct. Like if you're not that concerned with the news that we go through, and you just want directly, okay, this is the topic they're talking about. You can go and find that immediately on YouTube.
Get that.
You'll be able to do that and not have to, sit there and slog through or whatever. But just so you guys know, like YouTube and Spotify and all those other places, those are going to be where the edited versions are, but you can still come here for the full episodes.
Absolutely. And let us know in the comments, like, however you feel about, Game of Thrones, the House of the Dragon. What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts for the future of it?
Yes.
How do you feel about, well, just the show as a whole? We'll just leave it there, because I mean that's the hard. But the hard part here is like there's so much that if you know what's going to happen, like the spoilers already exist, right? And so if you know,
I think
it's
me
kind
and you
of
might
hard
be
to,
thinking about the same thing. Potentially.
I'm saying, and so it's very hard to sometimes talk about these things without ruining things for people who don't know, because that's got to be an exciting perspective.
Right.
So,
Right.
just whatever your perspectives are, put them in the comments, man. Let us know what you think.
And join us for all of our fine things that we'll be making soon here.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be an uptick in content on pretty much overall
all around
on our channels. Here, 3-player modes, and you know, you're at Lentarg everywhere. You're at GraeSacle or Power of GraeSacle.
Power of GraeSacle on Twitch. GraeSacle on, and that is capital G, capital S, GraeScale on YouTube. There are a couple more GraeScales, but
like up top.
Exactly.
I'm at LazerPunch on YouTube. LazerPunch 86 on Twitch, and you know, check in later this week because I will be streaming the Maiden Abyss Binary Stars. Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, come back later tonight. We might be throwing down on some Z Fighters.
Yes.
Might be doing something else.
Yep.
Hit that bell so you'll know when we go live.
That's right. Like, share, subscribe. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, iTunes, and everywhere else you like to listen to your podcast. We will see you guys next week for something that we'll talk about later.
Yeah,
something rad. It'll be something
It'll
rad,
be so
okay?
rad.
And we'll also join you Sunday for more House of the Dragon.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye,
Good.
guys.
Bye.
Peace.